In this episode, I share an interview from several years ago when I had an in-depth conversation with Bob Zimmer in Santa Fe, New Mexico. I was there collecting lilac flower essence when we got a chance to sit down together. We talk about his travels and work from all over the world in the hospitality industry, from Hong Kong to Bali, Hawaii to Machu Picchu. He talks about his path in sustainability and spirituality. He's a great storyteller, and I think you'll enjoy this interview.
Welcome to the Flower Lounge, a place for conversations with wildly creative people and a little plant-loving wisdom to help you experience life in full bloom. I'm Katie Hess, flower alchemist and founder of LOTUSWEI, and I believe in a world where we're all living at our personal edge. Tell us a little bit about yourself, a little bit about your background. Who are you, Bob?
I've changed my name to Robert because I want to forget some of the past. They called me Cowboy Bob when I was growing up because I loved horses and cowboy hats and would go on the set with my father when he was shooting westerns or what have you. So it's the new Bob is now Robert. But my background it's magical. I've been blessed with just an incredible life. Graduate school, was out in the world, living in Asia. For instance, I was living in Hong Kong, and at the time doing designing and planning. It's when Asia just was booming, and was blessed working in India, in China, in the Philippines. One of my favorite places, Bali, and it was just a great experience in school of looking at what works and what isn't sustainable, and how sometimes tourism can be too much pressure on the cultural and spiritual life.
And how did you travel to so many places? How was that?
Well, I was based in Hong Kong. I was managing director of an international planning and design firm that specialized in hotels and resorts. And so I got sent there. It's not that I needed to see Bali, but I didn't know till I got there that I really needed to be there, because it brought a lot of past life recognition of things, and especially around Buddhism. And I got close to the Tibetan Buddhist community that was leaving Tibet, and it was just an incredible experience. But it was a teacher, and when I said magical, it was like, then our work took us, we redesigned the lodge at Machu Picchu, and we took this 15th century monastery in Cusco and converted it to a hotel, spa, and wellness, and put oxygen in the rooms because you're up at 13,000 feet. And it was what I meant by all that is, it was my graduate school to really get deep into culture, into healing, into shamanism, into just all of the diversity of this beautiful planet. And it was my teacher. So, it's like when I say magical, I'm going to tell you a quick story about a crazy time. I was out in Asia. I was in Bangladesh. A major Japanese company had sent me there they wanted to build a hotel for the government, because there was only one really international hotel, the Intercontinental, and this company was Tokyo Railroad and Electric. And they own Pan Pacific Resorts and major hotel, but I thought Bangladesh, Dhaka, wow. So they asked me to see what was available in the country. So I went up into the northern hill tract tribes, which borders Thailand. And I came down on the train and had some wild stories happen. But as I came back into Dhaka, a revolution had started in Iran over Islamic Ayatollah Khomeini, but it had gone all the way to Bangladesh, and there were rioting in the streets. And if you look like a quailo, known in Asia as a round eye, that you better run for it, which I did, because there were bullets flying, and I ran into the lobby of the hotel at the Intercon, which was safe. They were boarding it all up. And I'll be damned, there was a message at the front desk that said, "Call Dallas, Texas." And it was Carolyn Rose Hunt's son, Steve Sands, who said, would you like to come to Dallas and head up a new company we're forming called Rosewood Development? And as I heard the bullets outside, I thought, that's a great idea. I think I'm going to leave here immediately. And so I flew into Dallas from Asia and did an interview, and they were interviewing a lot of people for the project, and they said, don't go, we'll see you tomorrow. And they offered me the presidency to start a company. And it was like, are you kidding me? I'm not a hotelier, but I've worked for all the great hoteliers.
Right.
And it was like magic. And I was CEO 10 years, and it just working in Hanamaui and other places, it really, again, reminded me there has to be a new way in this world to work consciously, aware of culture, aware of the land as a living thing, the divine Mother Earth. Why are we constantly pushing people and resources and out? So I made a decision after 10 years to resign because I wanted to do more of our own beliefs, because it was hard sometimes going up against the kind of ethics of our big businesses. So then Bob was blessed with working for the wonderful Orient Express hotels that have the train to Venice and a number of hotels, and they sent Dolores and I, who headed up, my wife that heads up the design studio. We worked in Mallorca at La Residencia, we worked in Cusco, we worked in Machu Picchu, we worked in Lima, we did an incredible restaurant in Argentina, and it was like, is this for real? And we did this wonderful place that was a great teacher for me, Katie, and that was, we did a village out in Coca Canyon that was kind of an eco-village. We did a spa there, but again, it was a teacher. I went up into these ancient villages that were no longer lived in, and I found this shaman's cave, and it was full of petroglyphs that I had seen in other places like Nepal and India and even Scotland, the Druid symbols. And you just realize that there's a thread of beauty that connects the ancient wisdoms. So we did this place, it's called the Cottages of Coca, and the cave was just, when I was doing this, I like to offer meditation before we start a project so that we take our egos out of it. And good old Lord, this huge hummingbird there, that wide and big, they're not like our hummingbirds, came up into the cave when I was doing this meditation with the land planner. And it was like, be careful, Robert, as he was at my forehead, or she was at my forehead. And it was an experience to remember to the gifts given, pay it forward. And that really was a tremendous teacher in my life. And now, as you know, we're doing wellness centers. We're doing a beautiful new project in Nicaragua that exists that we're adding to as a total wellness center, and spa and alternative medicine treatments, and it's tree houses in this tropical forest called Aqua in Redondo Bay, and it's very special.
So you've traveled all over the world.
Yeah.
You've worked with incredible companies and people all over the world. What do you think the world needs today, or what kind of work are you doing in the world that you would like to see spread?
That is the big question. And it's my, and this lady does know the heart song that I ask. It is my heart song, and that heart song has shifted. One thing that Dolores and I decided to do, that we wanted to do our own projects, develop them so that they're totally sustainable. They have an energy farm, they have organic orchards and vegetable gardens, they're off the grid and backup. They're built with sacred geometry, with non-toxic building materials, so that wellness this is a container for global leaders and leaders like yourself and what you're doing with your healing elixirs and oils and the way of chocolate, and that everything's conscious awareness. And that's what that journey of those years taught me. Consciousness, be aware of culture. So we started a triple bottom line company where part of our profits go to the community we're working in or needs, so that they can share the services of the spa, of the wellness. We start micro businesses by bringing, like, they grow organic foods and vegetables for us. They'll, if we have a biodiesel generator, we could take the coconut from the villages around Aqua, and turn it into biofuel, and then turn it into soap, so that everybody wins, that the local economy, and that's what we want to work on, creating sacred places in special places that are contributing to the investors, they're contributing to the community, and that we're sharing, we're putting a wisdom institute in it, but we want places that are in nature, that have larger acreage, so that we'll remember now to get away from all my nice iPhone and my iPad, and that we need to reconnect to the energy of the Divine Mother Earth. And so that's where the next 10 years are for me. Retirement is not in my genre. I love my doing, it's my heart song, and being and working in these places it's just been a joy. And that's how I want to complete this lifetime, is that giving back, but also the wisdom I was given. Not that it's the only way, but that I know what worked, I know where we are. And to have more joy too in our lives, that we are around people of like minds and sharing. Like, the way of your wonderful company, and the way of chocolate, and the way of the kinds of people that we need to have around us that energize us, and that we're in this, this word, this tribal family that's come together to go out into the world in a healing way with just one idea, again, I use your company as an example, is that you're bringing a holistic view and returning to the earth with plant essences and flower essences.
Yeah, so talking about flower essences, I know your experience, you've been out in the world working with large companies, making great shifts happen, and you're continuing to do that kind of work. Let's talk about internal changes, and specifically flower essences, as we know, can help transform the inside, as well as meditation and other forms of personal growth. So I wanted to ask you a couple of questions about relating to the lilac flower, because that's the elixir that we're featuring this month. And the lilac is about flexibility, it's about releasing attachments, it's about freeing ourselves. So I wondered if you could just say a few words about any experiences that you might have had personally or professionally about flexibility or attachment, or how to free ourselves of our, internal, something that all
You're
of us...
You're talking to a recovering codependent who is a control freak that has been working on this. So
I think everyone can relate to that.
And so I want to talk about both two symbols of the natural world. One, the lilac, which is about flexibility, and the greatest, I think, one workaholic disease is that you think you can control the world and your life, and so these natural healing, when I lived in Asia, I worked quite a bit in Japan. I went into Kyoto and went through a lot of the gardens and temples, and what really hit me more than anything was the simplicity, but bamboo, because bamboo it's incredibly strong. Like in Hong Kong, when I was living there in the late 70s, they were building skyscrapers with bamboo, not structural elements, but instead we build high rises with steel. They were using bamboo for scaffolding. And I thought, there's no way they can go up 30 stories with bamboo scaffolding. But what it really taught me was flexibility. I felt if I, as a recovering control freak, can control this outcome. And frankly, that and Buddhism and the essences, in fact, all of your essences I think I've used, and especially around stress for me, and the lilac represents, as the bamboo, the ability to not get caught up in the outcome and the stress around our daily lives, because especially these last, since 08, 09, has been really difficult. But if you look at it in context of a whole life and the way that we need to be, and that it's taught me that again, the ups and downs of business and projects that we had that weren't funded. I mean, they pulled the funding from it, and it really is about the essence. And what I have found personally in all the places I've been is that the natural elements are there for us, like the wild crafting you do. And these plant medicines have been in existence millions of years. And so I think, what you're doing this month with Lilac is a true, it has that empowerment for those that are taking it to be less stressful, to be more flexible.
So then let's talk about, so flower essences aside, could you tell us about one time in your life that you might have been attached to something, as we all do?
Oh boy.
And how did you come to release that attachment? Could be.
I'm going to tell you a story, okay?
Okay.
A true story.
Okay.
When I was president of Rosewood Hotels in 1980, I'm going to give you the year because the year is important. The hotel business is a part of an illusion because you're well taken care of. If you're in the business, you can stand in front of a concierge station in Hong Kong or Paris, and if you speak loud enough and you want something to go around the world in 3 days, that's where you leave the message, because it's a very tight-knit family, and it's wonderful for that reason. But I had an experience in Maui at the Harmonic Convergence in '87 in August, and that experience there was something missing, that I felt I wasn't as joyful as I should be, and I had a great life. I mean, if comfort or great salary, and I could have stayed another 10 years. But there was something pulling me, and I got that message on that date of August 21st. And that message was, you need to go out. And I'll tell you, I was holding on because great salary, didn't know what I would go do, what would happen, but I made a decision because of some other things that happened there to leave Rosewood and form my own company. And lo and behold, I left about 8 months later. But I kind of left with a lot of ropes around my ankles, because what am I going to do? How will I live? All of those things. And I decided to just take a leap of faith. And that took me, I'm a triple Gemini, so I had to go through mind and body, and I can't do that. Yes, I can. And I happened to be married at the same time, a beautiful lady and really special, but she was, let's say, into all of those things, and I just couldn't go further with the pressure as president of this major company to have things around. And so what happened was I left, and I took a leap, and I had no idea where I'd land. No idea. And it taught me a lot of trust, that you can make decisions without knowing where the end of the tunnel is or where another door will open. And I literally said to my guardians, I said, "You got to catch me at the bottom of the mountain." Well, it was real living proof not to be attached. Although I do fall back, I don't want to say that because I love what we do. And so what happened was about 10 days later, I had a call from Tokyo from a client that I had with Rosewood that had the Seiyo Ginza Hotel, who said, "Bob, we're going to buy the St. Andrew's Old Course, kind of not well designed hotel on the links and where God made the golf ball, St. Andrew's Old Course Hotel. Would you go out and develop it for us and handle all the construction, the design, all of that?"
Sure.
Well, I'll be darned. I set up an office in Dallas. We had an office in Scotland. It was like a miracle. I had no idea what I was going to do when I left. And in came this, and it started Zimmer Associates. It started the dreams, and we redid the spa, the pool, all the rooms, and it's right on the 17th link of St. Andrews, and right there is where they keep the rules of golf internationally at the Old Course Clubhouse. So all I got to say is the proof was in letting go. And then the next one was here in Santa Fe. Like, I've been here now 22 years. And I never thought I wanted to leave Dallas in a way because I just felt that something would show up. And then the Anasazi, I was on John Denver's WinStar board, and the architect said, "We have a project, we can't get it financed, could you help us?" And lo and behold, I went back to Japan and got this wonderful gentleman that didn't know me, that the bank recommended me, and I came back with a $3 million cashier's check to purchase the property and start the renovation of this great location, ugly building that we turned into a beautiful Pueblo design that's still is the best hotel in Santa Fe 21 years later. So and then I moved here. I looked up at the sky and I said, "I got to live here." And we did all this international work from being based here. So I learned that leaps of faith are okay. You got to remember and trust that your dream, if you keep manifesting, like, I am abundant, or I am creative, I am, that it will happen. When you get out of that, then you get stressed, and I've done a lot of that. As you know, I was 6'5" when we started this world journey, and now I'm down to 5'7". So all those lessons will teach you to let go and be flexible.
So what about, for example, what about like in a relationship? And I think we've all had that experience where we feel really attached to a person. What would you suggest to someone who's feeling attachment in that way, say in a relationship? How do you keep loving but not be so attached?
Doctor, you're the doctor. God, you just zeroed in on the whole meaning of life. And I really do. I want to digest that because it's really important. And I think that's probably been the most difficult thing in my life because of attachment and relationship. And I think it comes from my childhood, early codependency, not feeling loved, so I tend to attach. And it's been one of the great lessons that there has to always be in your life a sense of freedom. And I don't mean that as in a Western sense, but that your being is the bamboo, is flexible, and that attachment, because there's things that change in relationship. There's death early in relationship from a disease. there's a lot of things that can affect a relationship that you feel is sacred to you.
Right.
And that can, I think the main thing is to allow, and this has been the greatest lesson for me, is to allow each person in that relationship to be separate but together. In other words, it isn't about the personalities of each, it's about the container, which is the relationship. So if you divorce yourself from the personality, or that person is the only one, but you look at, is that relationship serving me? Not in an egotistical way, but in a way of, is it part of my growth? Is it part of my relationship, my spiritual, my consciousness is the most important journey to me. There's none more important. But I used to think it was about who I'm with, or that attachment you're talking about. So I'd say that I'm still learning that. I want to make that clear to you. So do you have any essences you can give me?
Lilac!
So anyway, that's how I honestly feel. But like Dolores and I have worked on our relationship a lot, and I'm doing this with it, and that's the container, not, oh, I screwed up, or she did this, or I did that. And I think that's, but you still have to have that freedom and flexibility appropriately, you know.
Do you think it has anything to do with allowing the other person to just be who they are without wishing to change them? Do you think that sometimes we wish that others change?
Dr. Jung, you are absolutely correct. I think that part of like what I came in with my family dynamics was, well, this is turning into a very good interview. You asked for it. So what I'm going to say is that to be open and honest is that because of the family dynamics,
Sure.
My safety was only in what I could control.
Right.
Okay?
Okay.
So then I go into the progression of age and journeys and relationships. So that's where I got that control. My God, if I don't control this, my safety is gone.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So I would say that is absolute no, that is the wrong way to go. And I'm still learning it. I'm reading a wonderful book by these two counselors out of Asheville. There's one on counter dependency and one on codependency. And what I'm bringing up is I worked on this a long time, but I thought I was through with it. And then I realized, oh God, there's these little spots I gotta clean. So, but that is it. It's allowing that person to be whole themselves. And wherever that path takes that person is the most wonderful thing you can give to them. Is
And to
that
yourself,
freedom.
right?
And to myself, sure, because I'm asking the same. Who am I? Who am I? So to me, that relationship has to redefine itself and change, because you can't hold on to it.
So it sounds like one thing that's really worked for you is to recognize when there is some sort of mental pattern that it really isn't based on reality. So it may be based on past experiences from when you were a child. So whenever you see that arise, you have enough of an understanding that you can say, oh, there's that thing again. And that's what allows you to be more flexible and let go. And
That's right. And to let go. Because it's something that I've learned very late, actually, before the gray hair came. I wish I had learned it. But what it is, you know, I've learned, like, who am I today? What is my little child I'm taking into this meeting? Because they're there. And the main thing is I think one of the mistakes of oneness, to be one with all things, is that you take all those little wounded kids with you, you know. But then if you realize it, and you realize, oh, look at that, you become the observer of yourself. Forget the other person. And that's something I've really been trying to work on.
And it sounds like just by observing, all those other things just dissolve.
They dissolve.
Naturally.
They're no longer there.
So you just observe it. You just
Yeah.
watch the pattern.
But hard, especially as a recovering control workaholic.
Yeah, okay, so last question. Because I know Lisa and I were just talking about this, and we were taking the dogs for a walk, and she was saying, you know, I spent all this time in Asia, and I did all this meditation practice, and now I'm in my business, and I work so hard. And she said, I think I forgot what it's like to not work so hard. And I know that I have that same pattern where, you know, I'm staying late every night. And sometimes you think if you just work a little harder,
It'll
or
be
just,
there.
just one more thing, I'm just going to get one more thing, which leads to one more thing.
Have you been looking? There's a mirror facing me.
So what would you say, you know, to someone like me who just loves to work because I love what I do so much? But, you know, then again, everybody needs time off and to recharge and to be in nature. So what do you do to
If I could give you any gift, Katie,
Yeah.
it would be this. Don't do what I did. Okay? And that is, I love what I do.
Right.
I mean, it's way beyond a heart zone. And that is because you realize you're touching people's lives.
Passionate.
And their passion comes in.
You're making a difference.
But what I did, though, to Katie, I didn't spend enough time with young Bob and now Robert. And so all those things, what I've learned, because I have slowed up somewhat, slowed up in the sense of more time for self, more time for family. And what it showed me is I can still do as much work and more if I take care of myself by taking an aha breath. And I think what you brought up, especially, I mean, I think it happens to people that are driven by greed or money. It also happens to us that are driven for what we feel is a higher cause. And what I learned, and I wish I could tell you I learned it, but it's been really aware. And a lot of it has to do with what happened a couple of years ago and my health. And what it was, what are you doing, Bob? You know, is this you're preaching sustainability.
Right.
You're preaching all these things. And that's the other thing. I did get rid of the soapbox. But I love to be out sharing the story of the journey. And so...
But you're talking about sustainability professionally.
But I'm not living it.
But the lifestyle isn't sustainable.
You know, go to Singapore. I have to meet with Aman Resorts. Go to India to meet with Taj. Go around the world twice in 28 days, literally. Because we had a project for Taj in Dubai. Well, that is not sustainable.
So
in the relationships with self, wife, family, kids. So I would say that you can do the same amount of work. In fact, I know it. If you take that quiet time, whether it's meditation, massage, essences, whatever that is.
Doing nothing.
Doing nothing.
Right.
Reading, or the biggest gift that I have living here is I love to just go up in nature. Go literally lay on the ground by this beautiful stream up in the Sangre de Cristo and be.
So question, how do you get yourself away from your office? How do you leave this door?
Very difficult. It did sound good though. I almost convinced myself. How do I do it?
How do you walk out that door?
I waddle sometimes, but other than that, I've been writing myself some notes. And I got to say something, I really like something I saw today on your app, and that was the journal. And I'm very visual and graphic. It's got a lot to do with a little dyslexia I have. So if I see it, I'll leave. And I realize how important it is. Like I'll go up in the mountain on the week, like Saturday, and go up alone and journal and but do I do it enough? No. I wish I could fit to you.
Have you ever made the correlation that when you do that, you are more effective at work?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
but I just have this little memory problem, remember that we are members of the divine human race. But no, I think that is, it's a must, and it's been better, I have to say. It's been much better.
Sure, yeah.
I'm taking time.
Yeah, we always say in this program that if you transform yourself, you transform the world.
That's right.
So I think a lot of times when we have this higher cause or idea of a higher cause, we want to change so much in the world when really it's so simple, right? Because it's all here, and if we just start there.
That's right. Did you notice the smirk on my face? I wish you had said that to me a few years ago, because I really was driven. I never realized it, to be honest with you, until these last few. Driven because it was, I got to go out to New Hebrides because they really need this. It'll help the economy. And we did this resort for Tokyo hotels again. And like, what am I doing out here? It's really a beautiful place. But what I'm bringing up is there was that, oh God, you guys, you could get a fortune for this time together, because I was brought up to in a beautiful Italian mother born in Italy, that she wanted me to be a priest and save the world. So I went to the seminary for 4 years when I was in high school. And what I'm bringing up is, I think I had this, I'm going to sacrifice myself for this cause, which inside me was building sacred places, renewing the earth. And it really, it was too strong. I didn't look at myself, and that's what these last 5 years especially, is to look at what do I need to say I'm sustainable and healthy and holistic and well and
Yeah. Okay, so if we could so for any of the workaholics out there, we could visualize our bodies as, say, like the environment. And if we want to promote sustainability, the first place we can do it and to walk our talk is sustainability here.
right here.
And then that way it becomes more of an issue of, are we walking our talk, right? Because we definitely want to walk our talk.
In fact, that is the key. And I think what you said there in this, I'll call it a figure 8 movement that you were making, which is the infinity sign, is that let's look at nature a minute. How do trees restore themselves, or a crop? When the rains come, when they're nurturing themselves through
They're receiving.
They're receiving.
They're not like working
and that
too
is
hard.
the greatest problem with a workaholic, is that they don't know how to receive. They only know how to do. I gotta do. So if we bring it back to just what you said, what does that tree or that flower out there, or that beautiful herb or lavender, well, how does it nurture? It goes inside in the winter, you cut it, it comes back when the rain and the warmth comes up. Well, what does that say? Massage, water, nature, fresh air, stopping. And going within, like on the winter solstice, I like going really deep in the winter, and then coming out, like I'm swimming now and exercising, which I didn't do enough of, which was a no-no, because I didn't want to leave the office. So, but if I see it graphically, and I remember, because it is about remembering, that I've got to walk the talk.
Right.
I've got to walk the talk. And I think that is the key to what you're saying, Katie. I really do. It's beautiful. And this is what we have to, like, I would ask you to ask me, are you remembering, Robert? Are you remembering? And vice versa. Are you remembering that you need that time because you're so creative? And creativity is like, I live in the clouds a lot. And that was one of the other problems. I see things and I can get lost in the vision,
Sure.
even though it's appropriate vision. Okay, but if you get lost in it, so I would say stop, heal thyself, physician. And if you want to be the change in the world, then you've got to, yes. Who are you? So that's how I feel about it.
Thank you so much, Bob.
Thank you, Katie. It's such a pleasure to be with you and see you. Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening to The Flower Lounge. I'm Katie Hess, and we'll be releasing a new podcast every Wednesday. If you like what you heard, or you know someone who might be touched by our conversation, share it with them. And don't forget to subscribe. To find out what your favorite flowers mean about you, take the quiz at LOTUSWEI.com.